Welcome to ISME Insights, the podcast from ISME People, a certified B Corp talent partner in marketing, CRM and digital. Each episode, we sit down with thought leaders, industry experts and entrepreneurs to explore the latest trends in the digital and marketing sector, as well as the wider world of business. Our goal is to share real-world stories and fresh perspectives that inspire business leaders to grow their organisations and for professionals to build their careers. Let's dive into today's episode. Today, we are joined by Chay Watkins on ISME Insights to explore the evolving relationship between marketing and artificial intelligence. With over 15 years of experience in FMCG, food and drink and consumer brands, from leading roles at Cymex, Samworth Brothers and Catebox plc, to his current work as a fractional marketing director, Chay brings both strategic and hands-on perspectives to how brands grow and transform. Now studying an Exec MBA in AI and computer science at Cardiff University, Chay's focus is on helping businesses to cut through the hype, understand the real opportunities of AI, and reimagine marketing through a more informed and human lens. This episode explores how marketeers can approach AI with curiosity and confidence, what responsible adoption looks like, and how creativity and critical thinking will remain at the heart of effective marketing. So let's dive in to your journey, Chay. You've had a really varied career, from leading marketing in big FMCG brands to working in fast-growing startups as well. Can you take us back to the beginning and tell us what drew you into marketing in the first place?
Yes, of course. Well, thank you for the introduction. Yes, if I go right back to what inspired me to start thinking about marketing, I remember before my university days, I had a part-time job in Admiral Insurance, in sales. And I just remember absolutely hating their marketing campaigns.
Right.
I knew I could do better. I kind of
Yeah.
knew, hating is a big word actually, but I just knew that this is not right. Surely I can, if I think I can do better than what they're doing. It just inspired me to sort of look into business marketing outside of my sales focus, from a very early age. So off I went to study, and I studied specific business management with specialism in marketing. And not being the most academic of people, but I just found myself engrossed in, the whole concept of business, commercial, specifically how marketing can really, really drive a business forward just by understanding what a brand is. That's where it all starts with. So study, and then I went into, my dream role really. My first job out of university was at Dairy Quest, where I worked on fridge milkshake, which, was an incredible opportunity for me. And Dairy Quest was the sort of phase of my career where it was all about structure. It was about departments for everything, insight. I'm very strategic, very brand planning focused. So it's the perfect toolkit for me. And so it was my sponge days where I was absorbing everything, how to apply insights to my work, how to, think of things in a commercial lens instead of just a, creative lens. And then decided, once I'd got my toolkit and my sort of, strong experience, to join a small startup. And that was in sports nutrition, when sports nutrition wasn't really a big thing in the UK. And I joined Cymex when the business was relatively small. And this was my sort of phase where I was crafting and building a brand and a story almost from scratch, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Applying all my sort of toolkit from my Dairy Quest days. And we grew that business into, one of the biggest retail brands in sports nutrition in the UK.
So how long were you at Dairy Quest before you, because that's quite big, isn't it? Going into a startup and you haven't got, the other kind of departments necessarily around you. You're having to kind of muck in. It can be a bit messy, a bit scrappy.
Yes, chaotic.
Yeah. Chaotic. That's a good way of describing it, yeah.
So I went from structured to chaotic, but with sort of tunnel vision of what we needed to achieve. So amongst all the chaos, I was able to bring structure. I was able to bring sort of big thinking and apply it to a small business, a small brand, and that translates into results. So one thing that I've done right throughout my career is take risks. I've gone from a promising career in a dairy to probably a Unilever or GSK after that, to taking myself completely out of that. I mean, to a small sort of high risk environment where, is this business going to be here in 3 years' time? That's the question. And every time I've done that, it's paid off.
Yeah.
Not in terms of just my career, but also the output, the work as well. So Cimex was a fantastic business, and ultimately we sold the business in 2015 to Sandwich Brothers.
Oh,
They bought
okay.
us,
Yeah.
yes, that was a sort of an aha moment for me that I'd sort of contributed to something big and something that was able to be sold to a giant in the food industry, really. Sandwich Brothers is a
Yeah.
£1 billion business. So I stayed on then at Sandwich Brothers in more of a more of a strategy capacity. So I was on the
Okay.
board for Cimex, but also helping the wider business as well with the health agenda, and
Hmm.
worked on some fantastic projects. Sandwich Brothers was a very commercial focused business, and all of these building blocks have just allowed me to sort of build my toolkit and get different perspectives on how different business models work and what they focus on. Very commercial focused, very category focused as well,
Yeah.
and very retailer focused. So I was able to build up my commercial expertise and really become sort of a commercial marketeer at Summit Brothers. And then a couple of years out in sort of during COVID times, and also whilst I was doing fractional work, I decided that after COVID, I'm a little bit bored. And so I joined a fantastic business, Kickbox. And that's where I was able to pull all these tools together, the insight, the structure, the brand toolkit, the crafting stories, building, narratives and all that type of stuff, and building the brand and digital, and also with a commercial focus. I was able to pull all them together and really apply it to Kickbox. And if you look at my time at Kickbox, we really transformed, number one, the brand,
Hmm.
and we transformed their capabilities in terms of e-commerce as well. And
Yeah.
their e-commerce sales are almost 25% of their total sales now, which is
Yeah. Amazing.
fantastic. So that's a sort of whistle stop tour of my career.
Yeah.
And then fractional is just something I've never. Funny because every job I've left, I've never really been able to leave post Cimex. I've always stayed on in some capacity.
Right. Okay.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
whether it's and that's where fractional have come into it over time. I've been retained for 2 or 3 days a week.
Yeah.
So yes, that opened my sort of eyes to the whole fractional and interim market.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess the varied experience that you've already kind of described, in the sense of you've had that experience of a small startup where you've learned, how to kind of build that and help that business to scale, but you've also worked in that big corporate space and then become very commercially focused. That's going to really help some of those other clients that you then go into on a fractional basis.
Absolutely. I think we have to be adaptable to whatever business, whatever sort of team we're working with, and being able to sort of. I always talk about myself of having no hair but multiple hats. So, sometimes I may have to be more commercial focused if that's the assignment, or digital focused. Might have to break it down in simple terms, or might have to dig deep into technical, depending on the assignment, the brief, or the challenge, really. So that varied career, the ins and outs, and sort of big, small, commercial focus, brand focus, has really allowed me to be able to adapt.
And you never had the desire to go back into insurance then after those Admiral
Do
days?
you know what? I actually, I look at what the insurance market now is. Good thing is Admiral have done their work, and they've upped their game a little bit with their marketing. But food, drink, challenger brands, that's my
Yeah.
passion,
Yeah.
and I that's where my sort of, maybe it's a superpower, I don't know, but that's where my skill set lays.
Yeah, and I suppose there's a lot of it's quite fast paced, I can imagine, in those kind of
Yeah.
sectors, and therefore, if you're naturally the kind of person that likes working at pace, then you've got that energy from working in an organisation that's like that.
Yes.
Um, what do you think some of your biggest lessons have been from working with both those larger companies and then those more entrepreneurial type settings?
Biggest lessons are definitely around never become a busy fool, because it's very easy to become a busy fool especially when you go into the more chaotic and organized sort of smaller companies. You can
Yeah,
very easily become a busy fool. And that was one of the biggest lessons that I picked up early on is, I've got two ways of dealing with this. I can try and do everything, but not do a very good job at it, or I can remain focused and decipher the noise from, the actual output that I'm trying to achieve here. So never becoming a busy fool. And also as well, I think people, working with people. So too many people I've seen throughout my career, are in their own lane, focusing on their own goals and leading with sort of, direction. But I found that working with people and working collaboratively And I'm
Yeah.
not just talking about marketing, I'm talking about business units, other business units. Bring everyone on board with you. Make everyone, a fan of, what you're doing. And they may not want to be experts in it, and they may not want to sort of, but bring them on the journey with you. And that translates to, much better results.
Yeah.
So collaboration. And
Yeah.
those two
Yeah.
things, and I think if I go back to the early version of my career, is the imposter syndrome in me. I wish I could have just told myself then, stop. Stop thinking, overthinking things. Stop thinking you're not good enough to do this. Stop thinking you're not smart enough or intelligent enough, because that can ruin careers. And I think it may have almost ruined my career early on.
Yeah.
But I was quick to learn that through a
I
really
can
good leader, actually.
absolutely, yeah, I can relate to that. And I think that that always continues. You know, I have moments still now where I'm like, oh, can I do this? And I think
Yeah,
I think we learn as with experience and age to ignore that voice at times and or have tools to kind of tell it to shut up and go, right, absolutely. Or the other thing I think that I've learned is to surround myself with people that I know are the people that I would pick up the phone to when I'm having those moments and say, oh, I'm suddenly worrying I can't do this. And they'll be like,
yeah,
Kathy, you absolutely can. I believe
yeah.
in you. So you need to have that because I don't think that ever goes away, the whole
No.
imposter syndrome.
And I think
Mm.
that's a little bit of magic that everyone holds as well. Is this is good to have an element of imposter syndrome,
Mhm.
but don't let it take over. And early on in my career, and it's a very small thing for me, but I was in London, in Derry, and for me it was about presenting to retailers, Tesco, and I had a really sort of big insecurity around the way that I speak, for example, or I didn't speak with a silver spoon in my mouth, and that really sort of got in the way of my and then I realized quickly that actually that makes me different.
Yeah.
That makes me sort of more human in my own way. I'm not trying to be something that I'm not. And I've always held on to that and sort of made sure it's never crept up again.
Yeah.
Because
I
I'm not a
remember
man of,
thinking like that because of a Bristolian accent and
yeah,
thinking,
of course.
and I'm not, I mean, I'm half Welsh, my mum's Welsh,
Yeah,
so I love a Welsh accent, but I, and my dad was from London, so I never felt particularly Bristolian, but
yeah,
I think it starts to creep in when you're at school. And I used to have to really work at not sounding Bristolian because there
yeah.
was, the Little Britain days when, what's her name?
Vicky Pollard, eh?
Vicky Pollard, yeah, and I mean, it was absolutely a joke. So I really had to, particularly again dealing with big corporate clients in London, and thinking, right, I need to sound like I am not
Yeah.
Bristolian, and being
Well,
very conscious of that.
fast forward now. Fast forward now. I think I've ended up with some sort of almost Dutch accent just from doing exactly that. But yeah, the lesson is, you know, don't let the small things get in the way because it's actually, it's you
It's part
and
of you.
the way you conduct yourself. I think as long as you conduct yourself with integrity and respect and intellectual curiosity, then I think you're good enough to go with whatever
Yeah,
you want to do.
yeah, absolutely. Um, so what inspired you then? You've sort of touched upon this already, but moving into that fractional space, how does that change your approach when you work with clients and the way you work with clients?
So I've for the last sort of 8, 9 years, um, I've been of the strong sort of mindset that my best work is done 20% of my time, 2 days a week or well, 1 or 2 days a week. The rest of the time, when you look at, a busy full-time job, in and out of board meetings, in and out of, team meetings. The 80% of the time that I'm spent doing business things, general, whether it's project focused or whatever, it's that 20% of time where you're really able to focus on, the core of your job that
Yeah,
delivers the most results. When I haven't been able, when I not haven't been able to, but I've always sort of been retained in some sort of capacity, it's for that
yeah,
20% of my time.
yeah,
And I think that allows everyone else to sort of rethink the way they work as well in
absolutely.
businesses.
And do you find it, I mean, I feel like with a fractional role that it kind of, you mentioned actually about the busy fall bit, which made me think about when you first go into a business, that like first 90 days when you're able to kind of have that real external perspective still. Do you feel like being in a fractional role because you're in and out of different organizations, it allows you to keep that kind of external mindset for longer?
I think the biggest thing for me, it allows me um, to learn from different situations. Every business is different, every challenge is different, and the value I'm able to add to each business as a result of that is sort of fivefold, really, because you've got different perspectives, you've got different sort of lenses on things. But for for um, for the 20% of time I may be with someone, and it could be in an advisory role, a board advisory role, or
Yeah.
a project advisory role, I've always and always will remain focused on not getting involved in the other stuff,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
not what I'm here for. And so I'm always mindful of that, and that's the focus and the laser sharp focus that you sort of lose in most 9 to 5, 5 days a
You've
week
got to be
jobs.
quite disciplined to keep it, haven't you?
Yes,
In the sense
yeah,
of just focusing on those key things that you're trying to deliver and not getting. And I think we can all be pulled into different directions, particularly if you've got quite a varied skill set and you've worked in different organisations. You can probably add value in other areas, but actually sometimes you have to be able to go, no, this is what
yeah,
I need to focus on. These are my deliverables that I am trying to achieve here, and actually the other stuff is noise and distraction.
yeah,
It's going to take me off that path, and
totally.
that's a real discipline that I think we all in business need to kind of have, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah, yeah.
So one of the things that first, so we connected on LinkedIn, and one of the things that I saw you post about a couple of months ago, which started our conversation, was that you have recently gone back to Cardiff University to study an exec MBA in AI, which is a hybrid exec MBA between the business school and computer science. So that kind of got me interested, and I'm interested into understanding what sparked your decision at this stage of your career to go and do that.
Yes, I think so. Probably just turning 40 this year. Call it a midlife crisis, but I think for me it was for the last couple of years. I have seen the shift in so many different things around the world, be it political shifts, be it technology shifts. AI is the biggest thing for me. What I mentioned earlier is about always remaining curious, always remaining sort of, I need to understand things and I want to understand things. I
Yeah,
just thought it was the perfect time for me to do a full circle moment, really, and go back to where I started and where my sort of passion for brands, business, and marketing started, and apply how can I apply that to all this sort of radical change that we're going through at the moment in the world.
hmm,
And I come across the Cardiff MBA with AI, and it was never my intention. I just come across it and thought, wow, I just want to look into that for number one. And within 2 or 3 weeks, I was, here I'm in interviews, and I just decided to invest in this because I know it's gonna allow me to decipher from some of the nonsense that I've sort of heard in the last couple of years about AI, and allow me to lead businesses and advise businesses going forward from a solid and sound understanding of how they both work together.
absolutely. And I think that will set you apart, because I think there's a lot of people in marketing who are very cynical over AI, and actually it's not going anywhere. We know that. In the last sort of 2 years, we're just seeing it kind of snowball and accelerate. And
Yeah.
actually, it's important to understand that and understand how we use it and how we use it in the right way. So you have spoken a lot about seeing mis-selling around AI in marketing. I know we've spoken about this as well. What are some of the misconceptions or over promises that you've noticed from people, whether it's selling kind of AI tools or whatever?
Yes, I think so. Mainly in the online industry, everyone has advanced AI capabilities. We can make your life simpler. And this has been going on for quite a few years, actually. A lot of platforms, software as a service, everyone is selling based on we have AI. And for me, it was um, sort of a light bulb moment around a year or two ago where I was missold. We can manage your digital ad suite on
Yeah,
social by using our own AI service. So we've done a trial. Um, and 8 weeks into the trial, I soon noticed that where's the AI in this? I'm not seeing where the AI is. And to be honest with you, that this is nothing my team couldn't do
right.
in-house. And that was the sort of aha moment for me that, okay, everyone's jumping on this as a mis-selling tool, as a, point of difference, really, I guess. And yes, I think that's sort of got a little bit more schizophrenic in terms of
Yeah.
everyone is now claiming AI. But when you step back from, what is AI? Everyone can have AI capabilities, and what that means is their platform might have some sort of automation that, to me, is very basic.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
And let's
let's not,
face it, automation has been around for a lot longer.
Yes,
So, and
of
I
course,
do
yeah,
see it confused with AI and people talking about
yeah.
something, and I'm like, that isn't AI.
I,
That's just
I,
an automated
and
process.
I've been an early adapter of tech right throughout my career. I graduated, went into dairy just as the social media boom happened, and I remember one of the first campaigns that I done at dairy was, it was based on a campaign called "You Lol, You Lose," and that's "You Laugh, You Lose." So you used facial recognition technology on a laptop or on a
Right.
phone. We served the customers loads of funny videos, and as soon as they smiled, they lost. If they didn't sort of smile or their face didn't move, that's AI. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
early
Yeah.
version of AI.
Yeah.
So it's been around for so long, but now everyone is jumping on the bandwagon as such with their own individual AI. And that just adds so much complexity to businesses when you've got 13 different providers providing different AI toolkits. Where's the sense in all that? Where's the connectivity in all that? We've always been talking about connecting everything. But
Yeah.
where's everything is so fragmented right now because of this boom in AI capabilities. And I think that's my responsibility going forward. And that's my focus is let's help businesses really understand how they can not get sort of caught in the trap of paying 30, 40,000 pounds for this piece of software. How they can sort of make AI work for their business based on what's the first principle of AI is your data. Get your
Yeah.
data right as your business.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very easy to quite quickly be sold all these different platforms. And before
Yeah,
you know it, that tech stack has grown and grown and grown. And you've got all these different things that you've given your teams, but actually none of it's really being used, or
none of
little
it's being
parts
used.
being used of each. And actually there might be one platform to do all of it, because it does feel like constantly, daily, we're all being sold something else that will save so much time in our business. But if you've
Yeah,
got so many things that people don't know where to focus their attention on, what to learn first, actually it can be counterproductive and
yeah,
cause more time in a business. So I think it
absolutely.
is really important that companies just go all in and learn one system before they start adding more and more and more
Yes,
to save their employees time, because unless it's used, then it's not going to be a cost, or a not
absolutely.
cost save or time save. It will increase costs.
And I think that comes down to, there's loads of reports out there. One MIT report was that 95% of AI projects fail in organizations. And I can
Right.
absolutely understand why that's happening because they're not AI projects, really. They are pieces of AI software that are part of one system that have very little sort of real impact on commercial results. Because the truth is, you take any business, the amount of data points, we've been a big data world for
Yeah.
years now. The amount of data that a business holds from, their EPOS system, their website, their complaints, you know,
Mm,
images from social media, that's data. If you think of
yeah.
it as what businesses need to do now is take a step back from all the hype around AI, question what AI can do to improve efficiencies, operations, and all of that type of stuff in the business, and have an AI strategy. We have
Yeah.
to start thinking about, okay, is this for us? Number one. What do we need to do? What are the outputs going to be? What do we want to improve?
Mm.
And that's not a difficult task for so many smart, intelligent businesses that are failing because they're not approaching it with a view of let's use the intel that we've got because artificial intelligence is this such thing really because it's all based on insight, data,
Yeah.
and then a machine that allows you to understand that.
Yeah. I mean, it's not artificial in the first place. There's got to be
No,
human input
yeah,
to collate the data in the first place.
completely, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
think that's one of the things that I'm really aware of. I've listened to a number of podcasts in recent months that have talked about, like, one recently about within the next couple of years, we're going to have 90% unemployment rates because all of these jobs are going to be wiped out. Absolutely. I can see how it's going to assist people and how people can be more productive. I feel like there's almost, and this is probably going on in many organisations, there's a resistance from employees to embrace it fully because they feel scared that they'll do themselves out of a job if that
yeah,
happens. Because you've just got all this noise going on. And then when I kind of rationalise it in my own brain and think, do you know what? Like, I think COVID taught us more than anything that we need human interaction.
totally.
We're human. That is a human need. So therefore, we can't completely take humans out of the workforce and have a robot doing everything. I mean, I called a company the other day who, I think it was financial services, and had someone answer the phone. And it was a bank. I was trying to get a code I needed to log into an app for their banking. And it was an AI agent that I was speaking to. And right, okay, is it business or personal banking? It's business banking. Okay, right, I will connect you with somebody, because I'd got frustrated by this point. I was like,
Yeah.
can I speak to a human, please? And it's yeah,
Yeah.
is it personal? Right, okay. Is it personal or business banking? And I've just bloody answered. And I was getting so
So,
frustrated with this AI
yeah.
agent. I mean, I am completely aware that they will improve and that will get better.
Yeah.
But right now, like, it just winds me up. I mean, it sounded great. They sounded like a real person. I'll give it that. It didn't sound like a robot, but
Yeah.
it could not understand the basic instructions that I was
No.
giving it. So,
And I think that's the difference between everyone can have a AI chatbot with an avatar now speaking to you
Mhm.
and speaking back to you. If that setup doesn't have all of the context to, customer queries, all of the stuff that is back history for that particular business, doesn't have the brand guidelines, doesn't have all of the stuff. There are some really strong cases where it works, almost 90% efficiencies. But this mis-selling of, we can give you a chatbot based on absolutely no information, of course, the chatbot is going to get lost and it's going to go backwards and this type of
Yeah.
stuff. But if it's fully connected to all your data, then there's no reason why a chatbot shouldn't solve your problem, 80% of the time before
Mhm.
passing you on to a human agent.
Yeah.
There's nothing stopping that. But I think it's frustration. And we look at, I'm digging deep into, there's two sort of, there's boom or
Yeah.
there's bust. That's
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the two sort of camps at the moment around AI. The
Mhm.
boom is it's going to change the world, and we're all going to live in abundance and all that type of stuff. And the bust is that 90% is going to be unemployed. The truth is, um, AI is here to improve. AI is here to improve the way we work smarter,
Yeah.
efficiencies, optimize our thinking, and give us that. I mentioned earlier, 20% of my time was spent in most businesses making the most impact. What about the other 80% of my time? What can I spend doing more things?
Yeah.
What else can we do in businesses to, we're all busy,
Yeah.
and how can we improve our efficiencies? And that's the thing. I will say, however, that I do believe, from my research and from, the way I'm looking at the world right now is we're going to see a shift in the sort of entry level job market
Yeah.
for certain, roles. I think a lot of web developer sort of type of roles are up for, so we all have to adapt, but the truth is, can an AI chatbot give you a strategy roadmap, challenge things curiously, think emotionally?
Yeah.
Can it do that? No.
Yeah.
And that's where people come in.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, how do you think marketers, taking it back to kind of, I guess, the marketing sector, can approach AI with more curiosity and less fear? Because it's definitely a sector that has felt like, are we all going to be replaced?
Yeah.
It's moving at pace. So how can they approach it and not kind of resist it with that sort of curiosity mindset?
I think not just marketers, but anyone in business, stop thinking of AI as ChatGPT. Number one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
ChatGPT is fantastic as a sort of almost a buddy now to us, but it's not going to help you. It's not going to make you stand out. It's not
Hmm.
going to, it's not going to make you a superstar in your organization because ChatGPT, is fantastic. But again, every business is different. Every brand is different. Every challenge is different. I've seen examples where, a lot of marketeers I can see on the, if you look at posts on LinkedIn, social media, I can see which companies are using AI straight away.
Hmm.
And it's
Yeah.
very lazy.
Yeah.
So marketeers, stop having a lazy view of AI and how you can be lazy with it, and be more curious. Look at the ways it can sort of enhance your reporting, your insight.
Yeah.
Every marketer needs insight reports, whether it's e-commerce reports and ROI effectiveness and that type of stuff. How can AI help you in those points in your day where you need to make decisions? How can it help you not make the decisions for you?
Yeah.
And what does that mean for you? It means freeing up your time to do bigger things, to
Yeah.
think bigger, and a little bit philosophical, but there's, we all have a brain, but we know consumers are, let's look at Rory Sutherland and The Alchemist, we're illogical thinkers. We don't buy a car based on, in most cases, is this the safest car for us? We buy a car based on how it looks, how good the sound system is, leather
Yeah.
seats. And AI is not emotional in those terms to be able to give you the curious challenge to every consumer channel. So I would say that the marketeers that are focusing on ChatGPT and doing the lazy things are probably going to be out of a job, not because of AI, but because of their laziness.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the reality.
And what is a creative kind of job role, actually, I think it will make the real talent shine, because you've got,
Absolutely.
like you say, all those, the people who are just doing it, and perhaps they're not, they've sort of started doing a bit of marketing, but it's not something that they've ever really trained in. And actually, it allows some of those other people that have spent years crafting what they do, or just got a real natural talent for it, to stand out from the crowd. So I think it's a real opportunity in some respects for marketeers as well.
Completely. And I think we must use the tools that we've got at our fingertips. There's been, a point in pretty much every job I had where I've maybe spent 20,000, 30,000 pounds on, brand mood film to go and sell
Yeah.
to retailers and that type of stuff. The truth is now you can pretty much cut out 15 grand of that straight away just by thinking about how AI can help us creatively to tell stories, to do all that type of stuff. So there's definitely efficiencies and there's big benefits of AI, especially with, video creation now, but it always needs oversight. It always needs proper feeding.
Yeah.
And I can't see a day where, would I be able to sleep at night if I was running a brand and everything was using generative AI to just create posts on Instagram without me looking at them? Would I be able to sleep at night? No. And I'd probably be out of a job in 2 or 3 weeks' time because we would have posted something completely, against what we should have been posting. So it's about cut the laziness out of all this. AI is not here to make us lazy. It's here to make us more efficient. It's here to give us
Yeah.
a better balance in the way we think, maybe sometimes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. So when clients come to you asking about AI, or when, they will start coming to you as well,
Yeah.
where do you think you start the conversation?
I start the conversation with ambitions. What are their ambitions? What do they expect to get from AI? If we live in a world where, everyone's doing AI for the sake of doing AI, of course, 95% of projects are going to fail.
Yeah.
If you look at them, that 95% stack, that's businesses that are not AI based. The success rate of AI businesses is huge. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, what are you trying to achieve from this? And then we have to take it right back down to, okay, let's build a strategy for you. And it all comes down to, this is the way I've built a framework. I have to visualize things in my mind to sort of to see the bigger picture. Is there's two things: there's AI and there's brands and businesses. One thing that always stands out for me with brands and businesses is, especially young challenger brands who want to grow, is the, eating big fish, build a lighthouse identity. So you build
Yeah.
a lighthouse identity on solid rock foundations with good values, B Corp or whatever it may be,
Hmm.
and stand behind that. It's purpose-driven businesses with a
Yeah.
really strong foundation. Well, now you need to put that lighthouse on top of your data lakehouse. So the
Right.
water around
Okay.
you,
Yeah.
and that powers your insight, everything to do with your customer closeness, your Nielsen data, your EPOS data, your online data, your CRM data, and you just start building up basically a huge amount of data into your own version of AI as a business.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, every business is not going to want to approach it this way, but this is the way that we have to start thinking about it, because otherwise you end up with fragmented waste in terms of spend with little benefit in terms of efficiencies. So we have
Yeah.
to start thinking about it that way and build a strategy, a roadmap of how we're going to achieve that. Because
Yeah.
just remember, you can't just expect to switch a machine on AI and it starts working for you and gives you your efficiencies. You're talking about 6 months, 12 months, 2 years. A lot of the people are talking about at the moment for it to become a fully functioning part of your organization. And the day I come into the office and say, give me a summary of the weekend. I want to know top line sales. I want to know how sales are growing. And I want to know what customers are saying about us. When someone can tell me that on a Monday morning, and I can go into my meeting and give a full and detailed brief, I've got time to action that then, not just spend my time finding the information.
Yeah. And I guess but when you're thinking about that strategy, it's about thinking about, right, what are the challenges in this business right now, or what is the end goal, what are we trying to achieve? and then working at, okay, how could AI help us to get to that point? And as long as you're working towards, right, that's our goal, that's our end or whatever, and then this is how it's going to help us, rather than, right, okay, this tool looks like it might make us a bit more efficient. But
I mean,
actually, is it really working towards that end goal that you're trying to get to?
there's going to be times where, for example, one of my clients, they focus on e-commerce, and they're not quite ready for a full AI system. But at the moment, they're spending 70 grand a month on paid media, Google, Facebook.
Right. Yeah.
They're spending 70 grand a month. Small team, and they wanted to know how AI could help them understanding their spend and all that type of stuff. And I was able to go away to look at that in isolation and find the best solution for them to have a full agent based on their spend, their ROI, and give them recommendations. So you're not relying on more people here. You're relying on the small team to become more efficient at stopping the wastage in the spend. So it does work in isolation sometimes, but I think on a top level, we have to start thinking about, as businesses, you build that data lakehouse, and you then that powers your lighthouse, your creative marketing, your business, and that's when you get growth. That's when the growth is going to come.
Are there areas that you think AI is actually overused or misapplied, maybe in marketing? Got examples of that?
Yes, absolutely. It's normally the mundane social scheduling.
Yeah.
So I can see it straight away in social scheduling. Almost brands sound the same, and I think that's completely the opposite of what a brand is meant to be. You lose all of the sort of brand values, the tone of voice. You lose all of that. SEO copy.
Right.
I've had people in my team talk about the SEO strategy, and there's words in the SEO copy, and this is the thing, you always have to check everything just because of AI has created that sort of environment now. And there's copy on the page that has absolutely nothing to do with the brand or business whatsoever. So it comes down to the laziness is causing the sort of overuse as such. Mm-hmm. Businesses and brands are going to suffer that because, who wants to become the same as everyone else? And if everyone uses it in the same way, that's what's going to happen. They're all going to be, a blended ChatGPT emojis on every, you can spot it a mile off, but a lot of big businesses and big brands are using it. And a lot of really sort of on LinkedIn, I can spot the thought leaders, and I'm thinking these are not even your thoughts.
No. And actually, if like ChatGPT, for instance, is pulling all the information from, the internet and things like that, and then kind of giving you a condensed version of what it sees. If all of the content out on the internet becomes written by ChatGPT, do we kind of lose that, don't we? Because we've got no, thought leaders out there sharing their own thoughts. It's just regurgitated around and around and around, and actually over time that becomes even more vanilla than it is at the moment.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's a big risk, is because, AI itself is fed based on information. And there's going to be narratives there's going to be biases. And that's why we always have to marry anything AI with human beings.
Yeah. So how can marketers, this kind of leads on quite nicely, keep a human and creative edge in an environment that is increasingly automated?
I think we have to go back to this sort of logical and illogical. If we look at AI as logical, it's absolutely logical. Illogical, challenge. And when you start talking with AI and challenging the way AI is thinking, that's when I think the best output will come, because you're using, and I'm not talking about generic AI here, I'm talking about AI based on relevant data, a proper AI model and the structure. Yeah. I think marketeers can benefit hugely because of, number one, efficiencies, but never take, and I've been caught up with this early on when I figured out first, AI, what is all this stuff about? I was listening to almost everything he was saying for a very short period of time. Mm-hmm. I was thinking, hold on, this is not what I think though, and this is actually not what I agree with. So you have to challenge, and there's nothing more powerful than this up here, because of its, emotional, and it can empathize with things, and it can sort of think of things from different lenses, and maybe think of things from 8 different lenses at sometimes. And I think we can never underestimate the power of this.
Human brain, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the human brain. And yes, marketeers, just remember, I think marketing is predicated on customers and being close to those customers and being able to, being able to communicate in your own authentic way as a brand or as a business. You're not going to achieve that by I'll keep going back to lazy stewardship of AI, sick AI um,
Yeah.
platforms. But that's where businesses have responsibilities. A
Yeah.
business, if I was a business leader and I owned a business, even if it was turning over 2 or 3 million, it's my responsibility as a business owner to govern and to put a policy in place to, in some cases, no AI. That's a
Yeah.
perfectly reasonable policy right now.
Mhm.
But the governance needs to come and the leadership needs to come from the leadership team. And collectively, what is our policy on AI? And if we are going to use it, how are we going to use it in an ethical way? Because ethics is a big thing.
Yeah.
How are we going to, orchestrate all of this? How are we going to, because the biggest challenge I believe a lot of leaders are going to get is questioning, um, human resources.
Yeah.
And do we need, 15 people working in a department when 3 of them could be run by AI? Well, um, I think questioning that right now is a little bit premature. I
Mm.
think, um, without strategy, without proper, a proper approach and the ethics, and I just find it bizarre. Um, I'm going to bounce into the whole world of LinkedIn here and more your area, Kathy.
Yeah.
I find it bizarre that, anyone in the human resources domain, the word human resources, are reliant sometimes 80% on AI to make decisions that are completely inhumane.
Yeah.
You
Absolutely.
know, so
Yeah, I've seen so many examples of it already, and I think what frightens me, I see org structures, and there's agents that are part of those org structures. Like you say, it's yes that we need to be kind of coming up with that strategy around AI and what that looks like, but it does feel in some organisations it's almost moving too quickly, and they
too
need
quick.
to kind of hold back because. I don't think some of these agents are quite there yet. I've seen demos in my own industry of some of them, but I'm still like, it's not quite doing everything that I would do. And actually it doesn't understand, I feel, I've worked in the recruitment sector for 24 years. And I'd like to say I have built up a real understanding of human behavior, which is
Yeah,
critical when you're hiring somebody and you're understanding what is the best opportunity for them, who is the best suited to that particular organization. Some of that I can't even verbalize.
yeah,
It's something that is in me that I have learned over years of reading people and understanding organizations. I would find that very hard to train a
yeah,
robot to do it. It's even hard to train a person to do it. They have to kind of listen to and learn and observe you over many years to get to that point.
yeah.
And I appreciate that the AI will learn human behavior and will mimic our brains and all of that. But the agents that are out there right now, from what I can see, haven't got to that level of psychological understanding that you need. But yeah, absolutely. In my industry, there's so much talk about it will get rid of so many jobs. And I don't doubt it will
Yeah.
get rid of some. But
But
I'm in a human role that is all about people.
of course, and sort of someone, if I put myself in the shoes of, a 25-year-old me, how important it was early on in my career to speak to someone who understood an industry or speak to someone, um, about maybe my imposter syndrome,
Yeah.
how important all of that was in allowing me to become, you know, uh, a more developed and more sort of rounded version of myself. When we start taking that out of people's toolkits in a company, I think we're in, trouble zone. And don't get me started on the whole LinkedIn sort of how we're screening candidates now. We're allowing machines to screen things for us. And there's some stellar candidates, out there that are just being overlooked because of laziness, I
I
think. And I'm going to say it.
not agree more. I'm so old school when it comes to
Yeah,
that, and absolutely, I know there are time saving tools around that, but actually, I feel like you need to. How many candidates have we? Well, I've probably seen hundreds in my career that. On paper, I'd have been not quite right. Have a conversation. I'm like, oh God, they're totally different to what they look like.
yeah,
But a computer, and any kind of automation or screening tool isn't picking up on some of that,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I think that and also the other thing is we're using AI to create a CV, for example, and then we're all spouting out the same things. So
yeah.
like
And therein is the problem. That's when the world
yeah,
becomes the same, very myopic in terms of how boring life will become if everyone is just churning out the same old brand stories, same old, social media posts, same old CVs. And that, I think, is why, running back to why I come to choose an exec MBA with AI. Computer science is not my thing, but
No.
I'm going for it because I really want to understand the link between both. And I think then, as part of my role in the future, and will be around ethics, which I never thought I'd talk about, 5 years ago. Ethics, orchestration, strategy, and doing things in a way that actually does drive performance, does drive efficiencies, but takes into account all of these factors we've been discussing today.
Yeah, yeah. You've led teams through big periods of transformation in the roles that you've been doing previously and now, from like the digital transformation through to kind of AI. What does good leadership look like during those sorts of times of technological change?
I think I touched on it earlier, collaboration.
Yeah.
I mean, it requires someone who's very agile. If we're talking about leadership transformation, agility, being able to adapt, and that only comes through collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
Bring people on board with you and have your team that are all focused on delivering the goal, but also remain curious. I think we always have to consider, especially now in the digital world, is the ethics and the sort of the governance of things, like I mentioned.
Mm.
And if we all just remain focused on two things, and the goal, what we're trying to achieve, and the information that's feeding into, the data, the foundation of AI, and that's the main area of transformation at the moment. Is digital transformation is driven by AI. Business transformation is driven by AI.
Yeah.
So I think we have to take a step back, good governance, a solid collaborative team, and we have to have buy-in from top to bottom of an organization with clear pathways and strategies to deliver that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes total sense. What's the biggest mindset shift that you think marketeers need to have around AI?
As sort of almost forget about ChatGPT
Yeah.
and start thinking about how you can challenge yourself with AI. How can you challenge your own thinking, and how can you make that piece of work that you're doing, for next Monday for a strategy meeting? How can you improve that? How can you challenge that? For example, sometimes I'll, be chatting to, I don't use ChatGPT anymore. I use a sort of multi-model where they argue with each other almost to come up with sort of better answers.
Okay.
But I always ask them to think of this as a certain person. So I could say, think of this as, Rory Sutherland or Simon Sinek.
Hmm.
Think of this as that person and challenge my thinking. So you're almost asking them to
Right.
challenge you
Okay.
instead of
Yeah. Yeah.
asking them for answers. And that's when you start uncovering okay, I haven't thought of it that way, or I haven't thought of it this way. But yes, forget about ChatGPT, because that's not going to solve the laziness problem. And that's going
Mm.
to be the biggest problem, that I think people are going to lose their jobs through laziness versus lose their jobs through AI's competitiveness in the next 5 years.
Yeah.
And I hope that's true, actually, because we can't have businesses and brands run through lazy behavior. And we don't want to be lazy as a collective, I guess.
No, and I think you talked about human brain earlier, and our brains need to be exercised in the way that all
Yeah,
the other muscles in our bodies need to be exercised. And if we stop using our brains, I've talked to people before, I don't think we may have talked about this actually, that how, when you retire, like if you don't keep doing stuff, you can age really, really quickly. It's a bit the same
yeah,
for brains, isn't it? We've got to kind
yes,
of be thinking and challenging ourselves. And if we just use AI to do everything for us and stop thinking, it's a massive
yeah.
danger, I think, to.
I'll just give you one example, and I think this sums it up nicely. So if you look at what's happening in the world of radiography, um,
Yeah.
and so the stats are not going to be, from textbook, but this is broadly
Mhm.
speaking correct. If you put AI in charge of radiography screening
Yeah.
alone, the success rate is around about 80%.
Okay.
Okay. If you was to put a human in that sort of screening environment alone, the success rate is probably a little bit less than AI.
Right.
If you put them together, the success rate of screening for radiography now is 99%, because they're
Right.
using AI and
Yeah.
they're using radiographers to work together. And I think that is the power of AI. That's
Yeah.
that's 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 what businesses should think of AI as.
And it comes back to your word of collaboration, doesn't it? I mean,
Yes.
maybe collaborating with technology rather than an actual human, but it's the need for both. And I think we need to stop thinking about things replacing things and actually them complementing each other and working together to improve. So finally, as someone who's returned to education mid-career, what's the most surprising or inspiring thing that you've learned so far from your Exec MBA journey? I know you're very near the start of that, but
I'd say my thinking has changed. So
okay.
Cardiff is pretty unique in terms of it's the world's first public value driven business school. So it's all about
Yeah.
the global challenges that we face,
Mhm.
AI, sustainability. So it's all focused around the global challenges. And my thinking, my approach to the way, without even digging deep into the computer science part of it, is there's clearly a bias. Most academics are against AI, and you can understand why.
Mhm.
But then there's a computer science sort of school of thought that is all for AI. And there's somewhere in the middle that we have to meet, because is AI going to solve all of the world's problems? Some people think it is, but the truth is no, not without human beings. But how I've become more ethics focused, and how I've become more focused on the implications of the decisions that businesses, that people are making,
Yeah.
is sort of just give me a very different tilt on the whole narrative. Because if you were speaking to me a year ago, it would have been AI is going to change everything. Oh my God, this is incredible. We've got, there's a system for that, there's a system for this. And now I'm starting to think of the implications of, but what, but why? So the ethics in AI, I think ethics is a word that is often sort of put on the shelf, but it's so important now, more important now than
Mm.
ever, because um, you know, we are humans, we are not machines.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we are just about to enter collaboration with machines.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that ethics, the transparency bit is absolutely key. And actually that's getting more conversation at the moment, isn't it? That
Yeah.
we've kind of got the excitement of, oh, we've got this coming, and this from some people completely the opposite. But actually now a lot of the discussion seems to be around kind of security. Is it ethical?
Yeah.
Should we be doing this? Those conversations need to happen.
There was a fantastic, just a little light bulb moment, in the last couple of weeks. And it was just a sort of a phrase that, if we look at the world, you have America innovates,
Yeah.
China replicates, and Europe regulates. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, if you
Okay.
think
Yeah.
of it that way, regulation is very important. And, let's not think of regulation as a boring sort of wall. Let's think of it as it's a must, really, because there's there's a Pandora's box that could be opened, where anything is possible, with on a creative level, or I would say on an inhumane level with AI. So regulation is important, and just as important as ethics and orchestration.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And I think I'm hoping that that comes, because at the moment
Yeah.
it just feels like it's wide open. Thank you so much for joining us today, Chay. That's been really, I think, insightful for everyone who might be listening. I'm wishing you all the best with your Exec MBA. How long does it last? How is it? A couple of
It's
years?
a year solid.
A,
So we're doing
a year.
a solid
So,
full year. Yeah.
so next summer you'll have graduated, and
Yes,
yeah,
I'll be out.
you'll be out
And
there
yes,
helping all these businesses that
absolutely. Yeah.
so value what you've learned during that time. So that's
Yeah.
amazing. So yeah, all the best with that. And
Thank
thank
you,
you
Kathy.
for taking the time to speak with us today.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to ISME Insights, brought to you by ISME People, your B Corp talent partner in marketing, CRM and digital. We hope today's conversation gave you valuable insights you can take away for your business and career. To learn more about how we help organisations with end-to-end talent solutions, visit ismepeople.com. Don't forget to like this episode and follow the podcast for more conversations with leaders across marketing, digital and CRM and the wider business world. We'll be back soon with more conversations to spark ideas and action. Thank you.